Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. It's been like a month maybe, and we were going to have an episode a couple weeks ago during the Stanley Cup Finals, but I didn't watch the first couple of games, and when it got 3-0 Ray, I thought the Panthers might just shut it down in 4 or 5 games, but was very, very wrong. Edmonton came back. I thought they might get their Canada and their first, cup since the last time the Edmonton Oilers were in there when they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in 2006. But Game 7s are not kind to the Oilers.
They're not, no, and they managed to. They managed to come back against Vancouver as well. And to get in, and they were being Bobrovski'd thoroughly in the first 3 games, but they found out, they solved him. And for those 3 games, they just couldn't be beat. And you could see the talent that they had scoring. When it came back to Game 7, shame on the Panthers fans for allowing that many Oiler fans in the stands at Game 7.
That was a lot of Oiler fans.
That was a lot of Oiler support. And you remember me saying to you, the Oilers were there in Raleigh for Game 7, but they weren't in the stands.
No,
right?
there were thousands of them outside.
Yeah.
And honestly, for all my quipping about Edmonton as the way the team is constructed.
Yeah.
Their fans, when they came to Raleigh in 06, there were thousands of them. We had 0 issues that I remember with their fans. They were super respectful. I did have people offer me enough money I could have paid for my next season's tickets, right? Yeah. For Game 7. I said no, unlike a lot of Panthers fans apparently. But I get it, when somebody comes, from Edmonton and they are offering you maybe $3,000-$4,000 a ticket. That's a lot of scratch. But
it is a lot of scratch. But I couldn't see myself do it. But that was alarming. It was alarming how many Oilers fans there were there. And you know what? It was a great game. It felt very similar to Game 7. You know what I mean? We were reliving 2006. It was very, very similar. So a great game.
Good on Edmonton. Thank you for not burning down your city, losing the Game 7.
Yeah. Hey.
Thanks for not causing a riot that ESPN then has to make a documentary about. Appreciate that.
We're talking to you, Vancouver and Montreal, because Montreal has had riots in their community too, and not even the Stanley Cup final. You know what I'm saying? It was right. So it's it's not even the final. So, but it was a great series. Congrats to the Panthers and congratulations to Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Maurice Tuomo-Ruutu, who is also part of the thing, and I'm very happy to see them get that success. Tuomo, especially for me, because I loved him, as I wish he would have stayed with the Hurricanes longer than he did. But Paul Maurice, what can you say, right? 30 years. He was when he broke in, he was with Hartford. Okay. A long time suffering. And so, just congrats.
I still don't see him as a mastermind coach. I know they just won a cup, so this sounds probably like, Brad, what are you talking about? He just won a Stanley Cup. But one of the nicest guys, super intelligent. I love Paul's sense of humor. When he put his cats on the jersey, and, those kind of things. I love the fact that Paul Maurice, this is a family-friendly show, but Paul Maurice doesn't hold back sometimes with the
does not.
He adds a little spice sometimes to his language. Hilarious guy. I'm happy for him. He'll always be forever 500 Maurice to me. He'll always be Mo Must Go. But I am actually happy for him. And Stephen Lawrence, nice. Everybody seems to agree in the media. He's the nicest guy in hockey. So big congrats to him as well.
100%, 100%. So there it was. That's the season. And of course, it was nuts this year how fast everything happened because one day, was it the Tuesday or Wednesday? I couldn't remember. I think it was the Tuesday night was game 7. They had barely enough time to breathe and they were jumping into the draft, and then immediately after draft it was Canada Day, which is always the free agency opens on Canada Day, and it was insane.
It was.
The award. I forgot the awards.
And the awards
event was in there as well. So it went from game 7 to awards to the draft to the free agency, like that.
Do you like it being that compressed? Because I know a lot of hockey fans, myself in general, I felt you couldn't enjoy any of those things because it was you have 24 hours to enjoy this, and then we have another thing. I, for one, would like to see the season start earlier or be shortened a little bit. You don't need 5 or 6 days off between the Eastern Conference Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. Like, you need to condense the season. The Stanley Cup, ideally to me, the Stanley Cup is handed out by the end of May. If we get into the first week of June, okay, but the end of June to me is too late. It was so bad, Ray. We had trades which never happened during the Stanley Cup Finals. The league frowns upon anything that distracts from the Cup Finals. We had trades going on between games in the Stanley Cup Finals and teams were like, I can't wait any longer. We have business to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say this. I don't think it's going to get any easier for us because there's a proposal that I saw that wants to bump from 82 to 84 games. So they're talking about adding 2 more games.
Right. And cutting schedule. A couple preseason games. I think it ends up balancing out, or maybe they're cutting 4 preseason games and adding 2. It ends up either being a tie or a couple less games. Yeah. But I'm sorry. I think you go to 2 preseason games and like 78 regular season games, and you could be handing out the cup by the first week of June at the latest.
Yeah, I didn't mind it going back to back to back to back so quickly myself, but speaking as like if I were looking at this from the NHL, that's a business mistake for the league because you're trying to capture eyes, right? All the time you're trying to capture eyes and stuff and promote your league and stuff. And when you do just a bomb of things happening, you're in everyone's eyes for a lot of time, for a very short time and at its highest peak, right? Like the Stanley Cup final is it. So you want to keep eyes on you while that's all going on. But in the same respect, there's no length to it. Like after the UFA, which happened 4 days after the Stanley Cup final, no one's thinking about you anymore. And that maybe could be spread out differently, but moved back. I'm not talking about going into August, but you know what I'm saying? Like spread it out, but move it back. And yeah, those 5 games waiting for the thing to start. Like I get the point of that too, right? Let each team be at their most rested, I guess. But that's like you can lose from the wave of the Eastern and Western finals, you can lose that wave as well. Because you know what I mean? It's exciting to see who's going to make it to the Stanley Cup final, and all the fans want to say, okay, let's go. And all of a sudden it's like a wave that just drops down.
The wave crashes because there's nothing going on for 5 days.
Exactly. And then you want to try to start everyone up again, and it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. And this year in particular, you have Copa America going on, you have European football going on, which aren't necessarily overlapping fan bases, but as time goes on, it seems to be more and more. So just,
Yeah.
I don't know, food for thought. And I know other people have discussed this. I thought it was weird not everybody congratulated the Panthers for winning the cup at the draft. I thought that was weird. I also thought it was weird that teams are allowed 3 minutes, right? They're on the clock. You get 3 minutes to make your pick.
Yeah.
Right? So the first round, 32 teams, 3 minutes a team. That should be 96 minutes, right? Hour and a half. It took them 3 hours, Ray.
I don't know.
It was so boring, and Carolina was picking slow low. I turned it off after the first couple of picks. I'm like, now this is insanely boring, and Carolina's not going to move up. And if anything, they might move down. And by the time we get to 27, I'll tune in for like 30 seconds and watch our pick and turn it off because it was just another. Why is this taking so long? That should have been a 2-hour show at maximum. Right, you need commercial breaks, you need those things, but 3 hours when you have 96 minutes worth of picks being taken is just, I don't know. It felt ridiculous to me. I'm complaining today. I get it.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you, like as far as the program itself, I think it was long, but they gave each of those drafted players like a really nice coverage as far as who they are, what they're about, and stuff like that. And they did interviews with people. They talked with the GMs who were making the decisions and stuff like that. Like it was informative, but you're right. It took a long time to get to the end. And what made matters worse for Hurricanes fans is it got to us and they traded out. Like the first round is where you get your best players. We traded out and we didn't get, sorry, I don't want to say we didn't get nothing. We got something valuable, but that punch that you get with a first round pick and stuff when it's not there, you're like, man, this is a letdown. I don't care about all the other teams. I want to know about our team, like what we're doing.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have a preemptive thing that said, hey, Canes fans, we're going to let you in. I don't see you. Okay? We're trading big. We don't see the interest that we need right away. So you guys can do it. But we got to stick around here with everyone else. Give them, air. What are we going to do? We're going to pick someone. We're going to tell them, please make the whole league think we're picking someone. You guys go off and do whatever you want. We'll see you tomorrow. That's when we're going to do it. Okay, shh. Don't tell anyone. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, the Canes traditionally are not a round one team. Not that we haven't gotten some good number one picks, first round picks rather.
Eric Stahl.
Yeah, look at your current rosters built, and who's not a first round guy? Slavin. Pesci wasn't. Aho.
Aho
right?
Wasn't either. Yep.
So yeah, it was. I don't know. It was very anticlimactic in part because we traded down, and I do like all those things, but the people tuning into the draft are probably people who like hockey in general. Like they like their team, they like hockey, and so they probably want that information.
Yeah.
And I think for me, part of it is, responsibilities, right? How much time do I have to spend on things as a dad and as somebody who works full time and all the other things that are going on. The same part of the reason I don't watch baseball anymore. It just takes too long. I don't have 3.5 hours to commit to a game. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just me being a little bit of an old man, but I did notice it. And I was like, wow, this is just, I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to bed.
You know what? And I didn't
just tell
notice,
me who the picks are.
And I'll tell you what, I didn't notice that no one really said, hey, congrats to the Panthers. I mean, it might have happened a couple of times, but I didn't even realize it. And I watched most of it. Like I wasn't there right from the start.
Yeah.
Because it was a fait accompli anyway. Like we knew who was going to the Sharks and, Celebrini, and that's it. Right. So, let's get to the draft because the Hurricanes day 2 was hopping, and we still did more trading. Like Tulski did a lot of accumulating picks dealing away, and the picks that he made, not a lot of the names really bounce out at you as far as, drafts and the draft picks and stuff. But I can guarantee you that they're all like analytical, great picks and good ideas. We still had this, picks of, we got some size in there. I mean, it was all around pretty good. Like, he did a pretty good job on that first one. I don't know why there were people cracking on Eric about the draft, and I didn't understand that. And they cracked on him for the free agency as well. Another thing that I really didn't understand. But
yeah, we'll have to get to that for sure. But
yeah,
I mean, the Canes added 10 picks during the draft in rounds 2 through 7, and I'm sure I'm going to kill some of these names, so bear with us. I am not a prospects expert, so what I know about these guys, a lot of it comes from secondhand. Where Canes prospect is somebody we're going to have on today, and due to me, weren't able to get that worked out. So I get information from folks, and somebody will send me highlight clips and things, and that's kind of what I know. But Dominic Badinka, the first guy from Czechia.
Nice.
I like this pick as soon as I saw 6'3".
Yeah,
because the Hurricanes have a lot of 6-foot-ish guys who are really 5'9", 5'10", 5'11".
Sure.
So he was number 34 overall. He plays in the SHL. Puck moving defenseman. Like, where have we heard that before, right?
Yeah.
So
like them all.
He's a huge Brent Burns fan, and I remember them saying that they had Brent Burns call him, after he was picked, right? And he got to talk with Brent Burns. They FaceTime, which was really cool.
That is great.
It sounds like he's another guy who has speed and mobility. Is able to do some shutdown, puck retrieval. He needs to work on his
right.
He shoots right. That's a big one, right?
That's a real big one.
So, but a potential top 4 guy.
I like the sound of that. And that's a little bit in the future and stuff, because defensively, I think we're sound there, but man, oh man, having that type of player coming up it's just always nice to see. It'll be really nice to see where he, drops in the future. No question.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Artemonov, and I sure hope I got that right. Forward, and he plays in the KHL along with Nikishin, who we already have on board, right? And I saw some of the highlights of what he can do, and oof. I'm surprised he didn't go earlier, to be honest. And here's one of the things that, if you look at the lineup, or the number of picks, there's a lot of Russian in there.
Right.
The Hurricanes aren't afraid of, picking up the Russian players and the overseas. They've been notorious for picking Finns, right? And I like this. They're not afraid to, roll the dice and see, okay, it's like the long game, not knowing how soon they'll be released from the KHL, or will they be able to join us, a la Nikishin. But yeah, I like this pick. Quick forward. And, he's good on the forecheck, which speaks to me, speaks to my heart. I love aggressive forecheck, and if you're quick enough to get in there and do it, man, that's awesome. And it was is this right? I can't, like I said, at the 50th pick, we got him 50.
Yep, at 50. He was slated to go, I think, a little higher, so he fell a little bit. I've heard him called a high motor winger, which is exactly the kind of style that RBA wants to play, and that's kind of the big thing about the Hurricanes draft is they do draft by committee. Rod Brindamore gives his input as well. Yeah, I think they go to him and say, "Hey, here are the guys we're looking at. This is how we think they'll fit your system. What do you think? And he's 5'11", so he's not small. He's 187 pounds, which is good. So all these guys are kids, and they're going to need to put on some size and weight. Some of them will get a little bigger, but yeah, he's another guy who potentially is likely to make it to the NHL. That's the one thing that I've kind of reading between the lines. I think he is somebody that we will see over in the U.S. at some point. So
the next pick one of these I don't know if it was the next pick, but in the third round, Noel Franson, a Swede defenseman. He shoots left and offensively gifted. And that's what I really like to see, offense from the back. He's quick, creative with his passes. There's all sorts of upside, and I saw the pictures on this. Oof. Like, you know what? And you could say this about all of the players that get drafted to the NHL. They get drafted for a reason, is they got serious talent, right? And even, they said, well, Franson isn't as popular or whatever because he didn't make some of the international teams. He fell short on some of them. That doesn't really matter. He can skate, and he's creative, and he plays well defensively. What more do you want?
Yeah, this is another pick who likely will make the NHL. And part of it, sometimes guys just can't elevate to the next level, right? Whether it's a speed issue, whether it's a mental issue, you never quite know. But some picks are more safe than others. Sometimes you swing for the fences and you look for that high risk, high reward. And the Hurricanes, I think, balanced out their draft with that a little bit, where they took some guys who fell, who probably should have gone higher, and those are kind of maybe your safer bets. And then you have a couple of guys who, if they can put it all together as a package, is going to be fantastic for them. So
it absolutely is. Now look, I'll say this, is there anyone else that jumped out for you on the pick, like in the draft picks, beyond the third round? I mean, all of these guys, we can list their names and give a full breakdown, but honestly, like, they're so much in the future right now, and there's still lots for us to talk about here about the team, that, like, including free agency and stuff. How do you want to handle this?
Yeah, we can instead of going through every pick, because people have had some time. I can give you like at least one.
Sure.
In the fifth round, the Hurricanes took Justin Poirier.
Oh yes.
I think he's a Quebecois boy, right?
Yeah.
He's tiny in my eyes. Anybody, when you see 5'8" listed, he's probably 5'7" because they're squeezing an inch in there on you.
Yeah.
But he's the first kid in the queue to score 50 goals since Sidney Crosby. And he fell to the fifth round. And a lot of that is probably based on size.
Yeah.
But when they asked Darren York, what do you like about this kid? The first two words out of his mouth were goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hello, right?
Yeah.
If he could be a Martin St. Louis, then you got an absolute steal. If he can be half the player St. Louis was, for a fifth round pick, you absolutely could get a steal there. So Justin Poirier, if you're giving, if you want, of the guys taken from the lower end of the draft order, if there's one guy I would say go look at his highlight reel, it's Poirier.
Yeah. Good call. He got away on me. That's why you're the brains of the operation. I look like goal scoring is so important. Now look, we've got a smallish young man that's doing very well for himself after he put on weight, and that's Seth Jarvis. He's not the biggest guy either, but the heart that he has makes him like 6'5". You know what I mean? Like, he displays the heart of a 6'5" monster.
Mm-hmm. And this kid supposedly plays that way. I mean, that's
That's what we're looking for. So that's great.
Yeah, I mean, what you look at, so other smallish NHL guys, Yanni Gord is 5'9". Cam Atkinson is 5'8".
Wow.
Matt Zuccarello's 5'8". Cole Caulfield's 5'7". Johnny Gaudreau's 5'9".
I
The
was going to
Brick
say,
Cat's 5'7". Marchand's only
yeah,
5'9", which really stood out against Kochetkov a few years ago. And then one of the big free agents there, Marchessault, is 5'9". So, size is a relative thing. And I always have thought that the Hurricanes needed to get more physical to take that next step and really, really put their foot down to get a cup. But if he's good and he is a goal scorer first and a pass, do everything else second guy, we need one of those.
Yeah, no question.
We don't need Jeff Skinner before anybody comments or tags us.
Look, I liked.
No
I was one of the guys.
No offense to Jeff, but I don't need Jeff back. But Poirier looks like a kid who we can give a shot to.
Okay, so I'll raise my hand and say I am a fan of Jeff Skinner. I enjoy him, and it's one of those things where defensively, there's struggle there, and that was pill I was willing to swallow, bitter as it was, and I could look past that, but.
Yeah, I still got his jersey in the closet. So, like, if they brought him back, I mean, as long as he doesn't change number, I'm good to go. But
now he's in Edmonton, and he will fit in well there. Make no mistake. But
once again, Edmonton's not going to win a cup this year, Ray, because of the exact same reason I've told you every year. They're going to win a bunch of 10-6 games, and then they're going to get to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're not going to be able to keep the puck out of the net.
No, you are right about that. I'm looking at this Poirier. Dang.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Poirier's highlight films, go on YouTube and look him up. Poireir, I think it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
there's room for people his size. You gave a nice list there. There's room for that size of player in the league. It doesn't all have to be monsters, with huge reach and big size and stuff like that. But they have to have what I like to refer to as the intestinal fortitude, which comes from our wrestling fans may know where that comes.
Mick Foley, baby.
Gorilla Monsoon. He loved to use the intestinal fortitude. If he can show that, if he can show the fight that we see in guys like Seth Jarvis, dang, sign him up. Get him in here right away.
Yeah,
we need the goal scoring.
And we're gonna see. So to keep this moving, development camp July 8th through 11th.
Yeah,
right? So it starts tomorrow, and Poirier is on that list.
And that's happening in the Invisalign, correct?
I believe it's an Invisalign. As far as I'm aware, it's open to the public. I believe. I'll definitely check with the Canes for that because I'm 600 miles away. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe they try to make a lot. I do believe the on ice portion is available to the public.
Yeah.
But the list is impressive, right?
It is.
With the way the cap is right now, something has to give because they can't afford Drury and Jarvis and Natchez. Which ideally, Natchez is probably gone. And somebody's going to have to come up cheaply and fill those ranks. And so of this list, Bradley Nadeau is probably one of the guys you think that could make the team, right? FUS, right? Felix Unger-Sorum is coming back.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, we drafted a Noel. We have Noel Gunler, who we've had for a couple years now. We have two Noels. And if I had a Noel, a nickel for every Noel we had, I have two nickels, and it's not a lot. But I am surprised it happened twice. But probably a common Swedish name. I think they're both Swedes. So
yeah.
But I just thought it was cool because you don't hear a lot of people named Noel, and I think it's a dope name. Justin, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and maybe this is out of turn and jumping ahead a little bit, with all of the free agent signings, we gathered a lot of the filling out the lineup type players. How much harder is it now for the players that are in the development camp? Guys like Nadeau, guys like, oh, shoot, now I'm drawing a blank on his name, played defense one game with us last year, or 2 games with us last year.
Oh,
Young
Scott
kid
Morrow?
Thank you, Scott Morrow. How much harder is it going to be for them to crack the lineup with the picks that were brought in?
I love that question, Ray, because Scott Morrow is not at prospect development camp, which in my mind says the Hurricanes say he doesn't need to be there, right? I think Scott Morrow is being penciled in as a two-way guy this year. The big thing with the people brought in, because they brought in a lot of bottom 6 talent, right? And Hurricanes now are fully running hockey operations in Chicago in the HL.
Yeah.
Right. We don't own it, but we are running it soup to nuts. And a lot of those contracts you're going to see are all the two-way contracts, those guys are going to be playing in Chicago. One-way inexpensive contracts, you're going to see those guys are going to be ended up getting up waived probably. And when they clear waivers, they're going to be assigned to Chicago. So that's really what's going to happen. But Morrow's not even on the development camp list, which to me says they've seen enough. They know what they have in him. They don't need to see him skate. Yeah. Not to go through every name here, but Alexei Hamosalmi, Jackson Blake, Joel Nystrom, Dominic Badinka, our first-round pick, is going to be there. Another great hockey name, Gleb Trikozov, is going to be there.
Wow.
He's another guy who we could see sooner than later. The other Noel Franson that we just mentioned, and he is a Swede. Lucas Mercury, I'm probably saying that one wrong, is going to be there. And Bradley Nadeau's brother, Josh, is going to be there, who is even smaller than Bradley. Bradley's 5'10". His brother, Josh, is 5'8". And yes, I can see the look on your face. He's at the Habs development camp this week, sir. I know where you're going. That yes, he is at the Habs camp this week. He will be with us tomorrow.
Is that not weird? And further to that, was he not? I believe he was at the development camp last year too.
I don't remember, but he's an invitee, so he's basically a free agent for what it's worth. He doesn't belong to anybody. He's trying to land a gig with a team, so he's going to go anywhere that he's invited, I think, which is
he gets
smart.
invited with his brother. Well, I mean, that's great, right? Like kind of weird nepotism, riding. Yeah. I mean, it sounds wrong to say riding coattails, but because he's even smaller than that, I mean, man, that is fighting an uphill battle.
He only had one less point than his brother Bradley in Hockey East this year. So he's 2 inches smaller. He's 2 inches smaller and 1 pound lighter as it's listed. So it's not like there's a huge difference.
Right.
We just talked about 5'8", 5'9" guys who do things in the league.
They have a place.
I am surprised that he wasn't drafted, unless he's younger than I realize. I'm not sure.
It's great for him though. Like let's get eyes on these guys, and you turn over every stone. Right. You're going to find to see what you can find, and giving these young men a chance. I love it. I absolutely love it. So the prospect camp. Yeah, I sure hope fans get a chance to see and show their support to these young men. Because that's going to give them a good vibe. It reminds everyone why Raleigh is a great place to play. You know what I mean? Like that's, show to them what they can expect, and what they should strive for, these young men, to crack the lineup and enjoy the support that we have for them. That's really what they want. So yeah, get out there if you got a chance. Pick one day, take a little time, an extra long lunch hour, whatever, and go check it out. That'll be great.
Right. Before we get into free agency, Ray, the NHL is making a handful of rules changes. I can't speak today. Rules changes. These have been approved by the board. and there's four of them. So I thought real quickly we could just go through, and if you have any big thoughts either way, or if it's kind of like whatever, then we don't have much to say about it. But
my first question before you start:
mhm.
Have they identified exactly what goaltender interference is?
Absolutely not, sir.
Of course not.
It is whatever.
Why
the
bring
referee...
in new ones when you can't friggin' define the ones we already have? I don't understand, but okay, go ahead.
And these are tweaks to existing ones, whereas goaltender interference, I think, needs to be rewritten. You know what I mean?
Totally.
That needs to be an objective set of criteria.
Yeah, no question.
38-2, coach's challenge will now be permitted to take back a penalty for puck out of play. So leaving your defensive zone, you put the puck over the glass, a coach can now challenge that for to see if it's a penalty. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right. Rule 63-8, a line change following a dislodged net. So the defensive team cannot make a line change even if the goaltender accidentally dislodges their own net. And I think this is the Toronto goalie Murray, who was accidentally on purpose kept dislodging his own net repeatedly. I think this is in part due to actions like that, where your team is tired, maybe you've iced the puck a couple times, oops, the net came off, and now your team gets the change. No more. No. If your goaltender dislodges the net even accidentally, it's the same as icing. Like your whoever's the five guys are on the ice, they stay on the ice. I think that's a good rule change.
Yeah, I like that too.
Rule 76-4, following an icing, the offensive center also now will receive one warning, the same as a defensive player, for a face-off violation. So it used to be you fall in an icing, you lined up, and the offensive center, if they commit an infraction, gets tossed. Now they're going to get a warning, just like the defensive player gets a warning. I think that's fine. That's why wasn't that the rule the whole time?
You know what I would prefer? I would prefer that the linesman just drop the damn puck. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just drop the puck. I mean, it's like they're looking for FaceTime in there. That was so annoying in the Stanley Cup final. Keep the game going. You are not the star. You have a job to do. Do it. Drop the puck.
I always say that they give out warnings like candy at Halloween, but they never call a second one, which would be a penalty. And I actually had people arguing with me going, well, of course they would. That would disrupt the game. I'm like, that's my point. If it's bad enough to give you a warning, it should be bad enough to call it a second time, which would lead to a penalty. But you almost never see a penalty for getting kicked out of the face-off circle twice. And that's because it's all fake. It's all drama. If it's not egregious, drop the puck.
Drop it.
Drop the puck.
Drop the puck. There you go. Sorry.
Anyway, this one we might actually have opinions on. 75-3. The referee will now give a warning if players are sitting on the boards. Basically, it used to be guys would sit on the boards with their legs in play, and then when it was your time to get on the ice, you were halfway there. You just hopped on. No longer. You can't do that anymore. And now there's going to be a warning per team, it looks like, during the game, and then a penalty, which I never had a problem with the old way, where you could just sit there with your leg over the board. Now, if the puck hits you or the puck comes close enough to the board, to me, then that's too many men on the ice. Yeah. But if the puck's not near you, then what's the problem? I don't.
The rule change scares me a little bit because the Hurricanes have had a hard enough time doing line changes at all.
True.
Without whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, my God, how many extra too many men penalties did we see this year? It was unbelievable. That has to be it has to be one of the things that you just have on point all the time. Line changes go smoothly. That shows that you're coached well, and you're not. It's always trying. Here it is. The players are always trying to get that little bit of edge. that little bit of something, and they keep pushing the line and pushing the line and pushing the line, and then, bam, you're caught, too many men on the ice. And especially during these line changes where the puck is in play, things can get chaotic, right? So I'm talking like it's super easy and should be. It really isn't. It's got to be well coordinated and timed perfectly, right? I don't mind it, actually. I don't mind the line change rule there. No more riding the boards. Stay inside, do it cleanly, do it properly. I think it's just I don't mind that as well.
And to your point, teams like the Hurricanes that get penalized for too many men a lot, it's kind of an objective rule. The general guideline is if you're within, I think it's 15 feet of the bench, you can change kind of deal, as long as the puck's not in the area. But like I've seen times when like McDavid hops on the ice and his defenseman is or his forward is coming off at like the face-off dot in the defensive zone. He's 30 feet away, 40 feet away, no call, right? So it's supposed to be objective. It's kind of subjective, and I feel like the Hurricanes, kind of like the offensive zone stick infractions, like they're known for them, and now referees are looking for reasons
just looking for them all the time,
because game management happens, and if you need to call or want to call a penalty on the Hurricanes, those are the kind of things you look for, right? And it's not hard to find them because every team does it. It just depends on how the referees are looking. But I don't have a big problem with that one either. I was hoping they would do something about goaltender interference for sure.
Well, just define it. Just define it so that it is
in a meaningful way, right?
In a meaningful way, exactly. Because the interpretations of what is goaltender interference and what isn't are just so out. Like, you could watch an identical play in one game it happens twice, and it's identical, and Toronto looks at them both different. It's mind-boggling. One of the things that I would have loved to have seen from the rule change committee is to define greater the amount of time allowed to decide on making a challenge. You know what I'm saying? We saw this so many times, and I'll give you an example. It's not a real one, but just it's the hypothetical. Canes score. Columbus coaching staff we're in Columbus. They're looking at the picks, trying to decide whether or not to go, and the refs take a long, long time waiting and for Columbus to decide if they want a challenge. And then at the very last second, right before they're about to drop the puck, we're going to take a look at this. And I saw so many times where the challenge, we were just given a long time to decide on whether or not they were going to challenge things or not. And that has to be greater defined, short, sweet. You get 30 seconds. Your video guys better be working quick. You know what I mean? And that's the end of it, right? Like, just keep that short, keep it going and stuff like that, because there were just too many times in games throughout the league, not just for us, but throughout the league, where coaches were given too much time to decide if they wanted to do it or not.
To add to I would expand it. If any kind of video review, 30 seconds. And what I mean by that is, if it takes you more than 30 seconds to tell that it's offsides, then it wasn't obviously offsides. If you're having to zoom in and look for, if you're doing a screen capture, put it in Photoshop and blow it up 1,000% to see if there's any white there, then it didn't affect the play. 30 seconds. If you look at it and go, I really can't tell from this 30 seconds of looking at it if it's offsides or not, then the call on the ice stands. Taking 5 minutes to figure out that something was 2 millimeters offsides, which completely disrupts the game, is just terrible. It's just bad for hockey.
And you're absolutely right, Brad. Those situations really flat out is the league neutering the refs and their decisions on the ice. You know what I mean? Like it's they jump in and they say, yeah, we're going to really examine this over 50. You know what? Those refs doing the best they can. They look at it, and that example in Edmonton and Florida Stanley Cup final. And I know it's the Stanley Cup final and they want to make sure that it's right. But how about having a little support for the refs who are making the decisions on the ice? As frustrating as it makes, they make us.
I don't even care about the refs, honestly. I'm caring about the fans.
Yeah.
Goal review. Is it a goal? Is it not a goal? 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is the rule is written, right? In almost any sport that has offsides is you can't be in X place unless Y conditions are met, right?
Yeah.
The spirit of the rule is so that Connor McDavid can't stand 5 feet in front of the goalie for 60 minutes and just get an errant pass and score. That's the point of the rule. The point of the rule isn't about did the puck go into the zone 2 centimeters after the player did, if the player had, but you know what I mean? Like that's the spirit. That's not that is the letter of the rule. The spirit of the rule is that you just can't hang out down there and get it. Somebody can't basically ice the puck and then you're the only person down there and then you take it and score a dozen times a game. So call it that way.
Yeah. And just to throw another, wrench into all of this, determining whether you have control of the puck as you're crossing over the line. That's another one, right? Where the guys that are going backwards as they cross the line and stuff, as long as they have or are touching the puck or controlling the puck, then it's okay. But if the puck comes off their stick even a little bit, like,
right,
you're making it too complicated.
Right. The spirit of the rule is the guy came in with the puck. The puck, like he skated him backwards. He was doing a dipsy doodle, right? The puck came off his stick for 2 inches. That doesn't affect the play. It doesn't. No. If your goaltender's argument is I didn't make the save because of that, your goaltender's terrible.
Yeah, stinks.
I mean, we have
goaltenders have enough.
We can talk about rules all day, but enforce the spirit of the rule, and you can do that in, like you said, in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, it's either obviously of the bad call or it's not obvious it's a bad call. And if it's not obvious, then give the ref the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, 100%. Super easy. Let's go to free agency. And we've already worked up our blood pressure enough on all of this. Now we got to look at what will be a very, very different team that steps on the ice, on opening night. And there is a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth directed at the GM for a lot of things, most, notably not re-landing Getzel, thanks to TamperBay Lightning behavior. TamperBay Light. Oh, God, I did it again.
It's hard to not say it. It rolls off the tongue.
The TamperBay Lightning. We got a lot to talk about here. How do we want to go through this?
Let's do departures first. Let's start with Gensel since you brought it up. The more information that comes out, in my mind, Jake Gensel was never resigning here. And that's fine. And the people who were mad about the trade, we gave up Pano, we gave up this and that to get. When we got the trade, I thought it was a rental. I feel confident you thought it was a rental. I feel confident 90% of us thought of it as a rental. And if you can re-sign him, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
So the fact that we rented him is still a positive. The fact that Eric knew he wasn't going to re-sign here and got a 3rd-round pick when you were going to lose anyway in like 12 hours is good. Like I don't understand any criticism whatsoever because the media came out. It sounded like initially they didn't match his offer until the day before the draft. But the more information has come out is like that doesn't appear to be true at all, and that they were basically like in turn, they had basically worked it out days and days beforehand, and they were going to match it, and then last minute his camp said no, we're going to go to free agency. And look, GM's talk, right? In my mind, it's clearly tampering. I don't see how it can't be tampering. Tampa Bay clearly, they didn't give up a third-round pick because they thought they might sign him. They gave up a third-round pick because they 100% were sure that they had a deal in place. So, but the reason I bring that up is Eric probably knew that.
Yeah.
32 other or 31 other GMs outside of Tampa Bay probably knew Gensel was going to sign there. It's not like these guys don't talk to each other, that they don't hear rumors, So I'm fine. I have zero problems with how the Jake Gensel thing went down, other than I think his camp waited to the last possible second to let us know it wasn't going to happen. And even though I'm a little bit miffed about that, ultimately they did basically let us know, and we did get a third-round pick, right? So
I'll say this. I think the third-round pick that we landed protects TamperBay Lightning from being accused of tampering. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's definitely the backroom hush. Everybody knows it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's like not so in your face that it was clearly whatever. Look, I looked at Gensel as a rental. I was glad that we got him. I think that a lot of fans, including myself, who watched the gel and how well he played in the system on that top line, might have been enough to show him, you've got something magical here. There's a good reason to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, to me, and I said this in a previous episode, I thought that we had to win the Stanley Cup to have a shot at keeping him.
Yes, you did.
And I think that's just how it came out.
I think he looked at the contract turnover this year.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big decision, right? You got Nate, you got the Nathan contract.
Yeah, not the same team.
You got Pesci and Shea. You have 4 or 5 UFAs. You have RFAs. I think that's enough of a turnover, because Tampa Bay, I don't think, is on the cusp of winning another cup. They're not that far removed either. Like, they're still a very good hockey team. But are they in a better position than the Hurricanes? I don't think so, personally. Yeah. But I do think that his agent might have looked at the turnover and went, they might have a couple of down years before, we're not going to be bad by any means. Right. But,
no.
It might be a couple of years before they contend again. And Jake wants as many years as he can get, contending. So, it's an unfortunate situation. I thought he was a perfect fit here. I would love to see him in a full 82 game season here. But as good as he is, and he was probably the best, available UFA.
Yes, he was.
Only one team can have him, and 31 teams can't, right? It's like the Stanley Cup. Yeah. You can do all the right things, and still you may not win because of,
it's very
the way things work out.
It's very astute of you to point out the change in the lineup. This coming season, we are not going to have the powerhouse, quote unquote, lineup that we had. You know what I mean? We lost some key figures in this, and we're going to talk about that.
Probably going to lose another one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so he might have looked at that and said, "Yeah, we got to make a move."
I know. And
a
real
quick
quick
question though.
Oh, go ahead.
Does he get booed out of the PNC opening night?
He shouldn't, unless people are like me and they're just doing it like for fun. Like, I have no real animosity toward Jake. Yeah. I don't normally boo players. Like, I do kind of make an exception for Hala if I was in the building. Sure. But Hala basically is literally begging for that. You know what I mean? Like, he's as much a part of that as anyone, because the way he left on good terms with the fans. The reason he gets booed all comes from after the fact.
Yeah.
And I know people joke about we boo every player that comes back. Like, not traditionally.
No,
we don't really boo any of our guys.
So.
They almost always get standing ovations when they come back.
Yeah.
So if Jake gets booed, I don't think it's coming from a position of malice from 99% of people. You know what I mean? Like, they might boo him, the first game or the first time he touches the puck or something, just to kind of get it out there. And then it's game on. I don't think anybody did anything wrong in this one. If this was Reddit, right? If this is does everyone suck or not, or whatever the name of that Reddit thread is, yeah, everybody kind of misplayed it probably a little bit, but there's no one person to blame. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. Does he get the video praise at the first period commercial break? Does he get the video praise tribute as well? And I wouldn't either, but
not because he left, but because he was only here for 6 weeks in playoffs.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, we have guys from Chicago who get called up who play that much. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You're gonna play it for them every time. Every time we bring up, everybody from the Wolves. No, he just wasn't here. If he was here for a couple, even if he was here for a full season, like if he had signed for
season,
like the trade deadline and then one full season, then I'd say he might get that because he made some spectacular plays. He fit with the team well, but. You win some, you lose some. You swung for the fences on that one, and you missed. But that doesn't mean that that was the wrong decision. It was the right decision.
I'm so glad they went for him, and it was worth the risk. You gotta push in. Let's move on off of Gensel.
So I said on Twitter, and I typoed it, but I said 59% of our fans love this guy, and 50% hate him because I am bad at typing.
Right.
Teuvo Teravainen, who I love, I have his jersey. I'm sad he's gone. I think he makes the team better. I think he has a lot. We talk intangibles, and sometimes we say the Hurricanes have too many guys who have intangibles, not enough guys who put up points.
Yeah.
I make an exception for Teuvo. Teuvo has intangibles, and he makes his line mates better, and he makes Aho, and he gets points for those guys. I am sorry to see him go. But people feel split. And I don't know how. Like everybody seems to love him, but people seem very split about his contributions to the team. And I think over the years, Teuvo has been a rock solid contributor to the team. He signed a 3-year deal in Chicago, so he's back with the Blackhawks where he won a Stanley Cup. I feel bad for him. He had to go to Chicago. Like that's kind of a personal thing, but
yeah, really. Really sorry we couldn't re-sign him. And for those who were saying that they're glad he's gone and he didn't do enough, I want to remind them that he was the player, he was the forward that were holding up the team in a abysmal start to last season. He was him and KK were the guys that were putting up the points and scoring the goals that needed to be scored to win us the games earlier. Otherwise, we're nowhere near as good as we finished. And so just remember that if you're crapping on him, I'm sorry, it's just not losing the ability to Turbo and Aho together. It just pains me. That just losing him really, really hurts. That was a special connection that they had. And knowing that we can't have the SAT line anymore, dang it, that hurts. I don't like it. That was what I really wanted to see them find a way.
For people who don't know, so we signed Teravainen, I think it was in 2019.
Yeah.
Since then, number one point scorer on the team since then, Sebastian Aho.
Yeah.
Sebastian Aho. Number 2, Teuvo Teravainen.
Yeah.
And then you have 60 points, and then you have Andrei Svechnikov. And then you have 60 points, and you have Marty Necas. So to undervalue Teuvo Teravainen's contributions to this team over the years, I think is terrible. Now, if you think he may have, should have been paid $1 million less or something, those are arguments we can have. But Teuvo, I think, was critical to rebuilding this team.
Man, that hurts seeing.
I'm putting these two together.
Okay.
Brett Pesce signs a 6-year deal with New Jersey. Good for him. Yeah. Brady Shea signs a 7-year deal with Nashville. Great for him because Brett Pesce is a little overpaid. And I love Brady Shea, but Brady Shea is very overpaid in terms of length of contract. And I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Good on those guys, though. Like both those guys, I'm glad they got deals that were friendly to them. Brett's moving closer to home. Brady Shea is going to be in Nashville, who I don't hate. I cheer for the Preds.
They're going to love his flow there.
Yeah, right. He's going to look great in
That
mustard
hair,
yellow.
oh my God. They're going to love his flow there. Of course, you put them together. They're players that, fed off of each other's success. They also fed off of each other's failures.
Yeah, it was a sink or swim pairing for sure.
It certainly was. The more the season went on, the less likely I thought that Pesce would sign back, and that hurt too. I like his size, his defense, just his demeanor, everything about him. And Shea was putting up the numbers from the back, and I was super concerned about where are we going to get those points from the back end now. Thankfully, Eric had the solution, which we'll talk about later. But it was tough losing them. But you know what? Good on them, for making their money. Thank you for your service with this team. There's a lot of folks that love them, and the tribute video pieces are going to be providing like standing ovations for like a significant over a minute at least.
Yeah. Don't be late
over
for
a minute.
Games.
Absolutely not. Because wow.
And those are a couple of the first games of the year too, I think. I mean, that's early on. So
yeah.
We'll talk a little more about contracts, I think, whenever we talk about who we added. How do you replace Brett Pesce and Brady Shea?
Yeah.
But together, we talk about Shea's offense. Like, how do you replace that? You just mentioned it. So I wanted to bring it up. Together, those guys had 60 points on the year. They were both big, they were good defensively when they were on. Shane Gossipierre, who we brought back from Detroit, he had 56 points on his own. And that's before you talk about pairing him with Walker or Orlov or Chatfield. So points, I'm not worried about. Like the points are there. If the points are there to be had.
Yeah.
So, but we'll go into a little more contracts in a minute because it makes a lot of sense that Eric Tulsky absolutely was cooking. People just had to give him, a few hours because social media the first 3 or 4 hours was brutal. We've lost all these guys. How are we even field a team? And I'm looking at, I'm like, we're like 3 hours into free agency. We got 3 months of this. Like, we're good, right?
And you know what? It was funny too because Gostisbehere was highlighted on all of the networks as that guy that's still out there. And deep, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, Eric's in on this one. I just knew he would be in on it, and it was so nice to see that we landed him. I just saw he was out there, and there's something going on. I think we can get him back, and he would be a great fit.
I was worried he didn't like his time here, honestly. And then after he re-signed, people had videos where how complimentary he was and that he, kind of didn't want to go, but he had promised himself he would explore the market. So I thought we were out on him because I didn't think he liked it here. And then come to find out, he actually enjoyed it here and he was glad he came back. So huge. Dylan Coughlin, 7th man, good two-way guy. He got traded to Winnipeg for our good old favorite, future considerations. We have enough defensive depth. We just didn't need Coughlin, so why not get him something, right?
Yeah, on the periphery, a lot of people cracking on Eric about that too because they run the whole string along, right? We landed him with Burns and stuff for future, and then like they just extrapolate this big long thing and try to make it look like Eric got nothing in the whole thing and that we lost a really valuable piece. And I'm sorry, Coughlin was always on the peripheral. He was always a fill-in and not even the first fill-in because TA was in front of him to boot. So we get future considerations. What's the problem, guys? Why are we cracking on Eric?
There's literally 24 guys in the NHL that can fill that role for the same money.
No question.
No offense to Coughlin, but that's
no, none intended either. Like I liked him too, but you know what? Just let him continue on his career, and we got something out of it. So there you go.
A fourth line grinder who I am going to miss personally. Stefan Nason signs a 3-year deal in New Jersey. I still am not sure I don't pay him that money. We're going to get to signings in a minute, but in short, we grossly underpaid Slavin to then overpay Martinook and then didn't have money for Nason. And I would have liked to have seen some of Martinook's money go to Nason. But, they have guys coming in that can do that job. But, I think people just really like Nason. I mean, I think, a gritty guy, goes to the net, lunch pail, hard worker, got put on the power play. Who it's, Steph Nason is, one of your principal power play guys, right? But
they
he came in, he did the job.
Right power play line.
This is true.
That's to me. Sorry. I should be letting you roll because you were on to something.
This is your show too, sir. I was pretty much done. You're 100% right though.
Nason, he's another guy that had that fire that we wanted, and he was great on the boards behind the net. Hey, he did a lot of great work behind the net, and that's digging those pucks out. Some of the points that he got in the playoffs for us, just magical plays. He kept
us in early in the year too, right? He was one of those guys.
Did. He absolutely did. So tough to see him go, and tough to see him go to New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't want to play against him.
He's going to love getting in front of Freddie or Piotr.
Speaking of former Canes who come back and take revenge on us, Steph Nason, write that one down every time we go to New Jersey.
No question.
You know what I miss most about Steph, though?
What's that?
I don't know that I can use my GIF anymore from the first round of the playoffs where the Islanders' Murray was running his mouth. And Steph gave him the jump, and Murray looked like, I don't know, he jumped 6 inches. He was scared to death that Steph was going to come for him. It makes me laugh every
beautiful.
time.
That was beautiful, wasn't it?
I'm not going to get to use that anymore. I still have it on my phone, though. I deleted old, as players have gone out, I've been deleting the old, little memes and things that we've made for them when they score and stuff. I can't get rid of that.
No. Keep that one. That was outstanding.
Before we do the signings, really quickly, Callahan Burke, who played one game last year for us, was not reoffered. He was an unrestricted free agent. Tony D'Angelo, also unrestricted free agent. He also has not been tendered an offer. And Antti Ranta, he's of the three, the one guy who I feel really bad for. Antti Ranta is also not been tendered an offer. For restricted free agents, Tuukka Tixela has not been offered. Blake Murray, Griffin Mendel has not been offered. Max Comtois, surprisingly a little bit, because they played him at the end of the year. I thought they'd at least offer him nothing. So the guys in limbo.
Yeah.
Let's do them real quick. Seth Jarvis is the easiest of the three.
Yeah. But I think they have to be careful.
Seth is going to get paid. I have zero doubt that Seth Jarvis isn't going to be a Hurricane. He's a restricted free agent. He can't just go anywhere. Teams can offer sheet him. The Hurricanes are almost certainly going to match.
No question.
Unless a team. Honestly, if a team offer sheeted him for $8 or $9 million a year, I think the Hurricanes would still match. I think
so too.
I think they wouldn't want to, but they would. So of the three, Seth Jarvis, I see no chance he's not back. His agent has said he wanted a long-term deal. The Hurricanes said they want a long-term deal. I think what's holding up Seth Jarvis is that you're over the cap if you also have to do something with Natchez and Drury.
Yeah.
And so I think they have to do something with one of those two guys, or potentially KK, before you can actually sign Jarvis. Because if you sign Jarvis, you now don't have the money to sign Natchez and Drury. And depending on arbitration, how that goes, then one of those guys absolutely could be snatched from you, because now you're in a position of weakness. Yeah. So I think Jarvis is only not signed because of the other two.
They got to handle the arbitration first.
Correct.
Once arbitration is done.
Until arbitration starts, you can trade the player, right?
Yeah.
So Jack Drury, I think it depends on the cost. I like Jack. I'm a huge Jackie fan. I like Jackie Boy. I hope they get a deal done. I'd like to see him back. I think he has shown that although he probably maxes out as like a 3C in Rod's system, he can play up there, right? He can play on the top lines a little bit and bring something there. So that's one I expect to get done, which leaves Marty Necas. And
how did the deal fall apart with Columbus? That's what I'd like to know, because that was in the works,
right?
And then it just.
I haven't seen anything for sure. I think what happened is that Don Waddell figured out the player he wanted at number 4 was going to be available.
Yeah,
and decided you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think Don was like, I'll take Necas for a 4th if Joe Bob isn't available. And his name isn't obviously Joe Bob. But I think what happened is that's kind of the way it fell. That's my guess, right?
Yeah.
Columbus took Caden Lindstrom 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if another team grabbed Caden, if they were like, okay, well, in that case, we'd rather have Necas than our other prospect.
Yeah.
And it's Don Waddell and Eric Tulsky. So these guys
know each other.
Yeah. Really well.
Yeah.
I would like to see Necas moved before arbitration, because arbitration generally tends to favor the players. He's going to get awarded an amount we're not going to want to pay. And they could sign, in an ideal world, I think it would be a sign and trade.
Yeah.
Right? You say, look, we're going to sign you to an 8-year deal, probably a little less money AAV, but it's 8 years instead of 7. And we're going to flip you immediately to whoever wants him for, Ehlers would be ideal, but it sounds like they wanted a defenseman. I think it was Aaron Manning writes on Twitter the other day, was like, hey, the Habs have a glut of defensemen. There's a possibility like a 3-way trade here, right? Like maybe something could be worked out with picks and stuff.
I saw that.
I would be all for any of those. I think the moment that you can clear Necas out, then you have the money, then you can re-sign Jarvis. You can probably sign Drury. Then you can deal with KK. To me, KK and Necas are separate issues. A lot of people want to let's package them together, right?
Yeah.
You get good, you get some bad, and when it evens out. And I say no. You get as much as you can for Necas, and then if you want to work a deal for KK, you just work a separate deal. Because instead of devaluing the Necas trade with KK, you can buy KK out if you need to.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And you knew my stance on this. I said it earlier. I like KK, but to me, to solve all of these money issues in the end, I would have bought out KK by now, and use the extra money to sign the guys that we need to sign, so that there's no issue with Jack Drury or whatever. You know what I mean? And that hurts. Sorry, I hate saying that, but it was more value. Sorry, you got more money back too if you did it before than after.
Right. It would have cost you a third before July 1st. Now it's going to cost you 2/3.
2/3. Yeah. And this is, him not being bought out yet, and it's just his birthday yesterday, as a matter of fact. So happy birthday.
Happy
KK.
Birthday.
I think this is a extreme put up or shut up. Like, he has to. This is going to be one of the times, and it's unfair. It's unfair because you and I have stated over and over again the things that he has brought to the team off the score sheet are invaluable. And that's why he's still great. And he's still so friggin' young. Is he even 24 yet? No.
I don't think so.
His birthday, I knew it was his birthday yesterday.
He could still be a Jordan Staal, I think.
Yeah.
I just don't know if there's room for him here because we have 400 bottom 6 guys.
Yeah. So he's really got to show up on the scoreboard now. Everyone knows what he brings, off the scoreboard. He works friggin' hard. He's not a slacker. You know what I mean? Have you ever looked at KK the way we looked at Natchez, who sometimes was indifferent about his defensive responsibilities? Like Natchez showed, I don't think I've ever looked at KK and said, dude, where's the effort? Where's the hustle?
Right. Well, he's the opposite, right? I've never had an issue with his defensive.
Yeah.
And we've talked about, like, in the playoffs, his offensive, he was inches away from, 4 or 5 points against the Islanders.
So many goals.
I mean, an inch, 2 inches here and there, and he'd have 4 or 5 goals in that series. It's
one of the K's
so
in his
close.
name. One of the K's in his name stood for clank. Like, honestly, how many crossbars, right? Clank. It was like
There's so many.
He was there. He was there. He'll get there. He'll get there.
A couple of quick ones here, or actually, last thoughts on Natchez, like, just because he's kind of the main light, right? He's the main issue we have left. For Natchez, I really wonder about how arbitration is going to go for him, because his side, his agent has all of the tape of those beautiful goals and the the great speed and quickness and overtime results and stuff like that. They've got all of that tape lined up, and the team has all of the tape lined up of the bountiful drop passes to no one, the bad turnovers, the indifferent, so they're going to go to the arbitrators and say this. This is the funny thing about arbitration. Everyone's on the same side on the team until they go to arbitration, and now they do nothing but smack talk the player in an effort to not have to pay as much. It's very, very strange, but it's not what else is weird
either.
There's a list of all these things that you can't bring up in front of the arbitrator. Like, you can't do salary comparisons. You can't say, well, Natchez did this many points and this many, things, and we think he's comparable. You can't do that either side. Like, there's a bunch of things you can't bring up. And that's why, I think arbitrators tend to side with the players, but not always.
Yeah.
But, it's a crapshoot. And that's the big thing, is if you can get a deal done before the crapshoot, you do, because you just don't know what's going to happen. It might fall in your favor, but they might say, oh yeah, give him he deserves a long-term high, dollar deal. And then if you go to trade him, now that team is stuck with, as far as I recall, once the arbitration's been awarded, I think you're kind of, if I recall, once arbitrations happen, you either agree to the terms or you basically let the player go. I don't think there's you know what I mean? I don't think there's a third option. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure, if they hear this, but if I believe that's the case, is you either agree to the terms or you don't, and there's not really a third option. So.
And it's so annoying that we're in this place, because he is so ridiculously talented. Why can't you stop the drop passes to no one? Why can't you commit to your defensive responsibilities all the time when he does? And he showed last season that he can commit to his defensive responsibilities. He was great. One of the best players on the team. You know what I mean? It's just fantastic. But when he doesn't, it always seemed to be the puck ending up in our net. Just always. And maybe that's just, is it the recency bias? I don't even know what to make of it, but you just see those turnovers at the blue line just make my skin crawl.
It's just in his head too. He's got the talent. It's just in his head. I found it. If an arbitrator awards a salary of less than basically $4.5 million a year, that award is binding. So Jack Drury, if he goes to arbitration and they award him less than $4.5 million a year, which would make sense, you got to pay it. You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
If it's more than that, the team has the option to walk away
and just let him go.
Just let him go.
Boy.
Which means it's really good for everybody if things don't go to arbitration. And if you're making under $4.5 million, it probably is more to your favor to go. and see if you can get some extra bucks because the team has to pay it. Which they could still do a sign-in trade or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they say, and Marty Nacius will come in over 4.5, right?
No question.
So if they say, hey, it's $6.5 million, the Canes probably be like, oh yeah, well, that's great for 5 years or something. But if it's $7 or $8 million, then will they walk? I don't know.
And to walk away and get nothing. Yeesh.
Yeah. Some easy ones here. Ryan Suzuki re-signs a 1-year, 2-way contract. This is a kid who's been hampered by injuries and depth on the Canes. I would like to see him traded because I would like to see him get a fresh start in a system that isn't considered, I think it's like the 14th deepest in the league. There's just too many people ahead of him. He's not ever going to make the league in Carolina, in my opinion. Ty Smith, who was part of the Gensel deal, he resigns a 1-year, 2-way contract. The AHL we're going to have a very solid AHL team this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Wolves are going to look good.
So, other, I don't want to say low priority ones, but Tyson Jost comes up from Buffalo. He signs a league minimum contract for the Canes. I think that's
I know of him, but I don't know a lot about him, and I would like to get eyes on him before I register an opinion. I know he's played against us, but he's never been someone that you focused on. And so it's hard to form an opinion on something that you really don't know.
He's a guy I would love to see in Chicago, honestly. I mean, he's a good, fine depth guy, but we don't really necessarily need his type. Eric Robinson signed a 1-year, $950 contract. Mm-hmm. So there's another guy I think that you hopefully are going to see maybe in Chicago. Canes re-signed Smith to a 1-year deal, right? Mm-hmm. He's $775,000 in the NHL level, $200,000 with a $275,000 guarantee at HL. It's another Chicago guy, right? These are easy. Like these are easy ones. Suzuki, I just mentioned. Canes signed Stillman, right?
Yeah.
So Riley Stillman, son of Stanley Cup champion Corey Stillman here in Carolina, he signs to a contract. We will probably see him in Chicago as well. I think that is a great pickup
indeed
for the Hurricanes. And probably the last maybe easy one, we did re-sign Martinook to a 3-year contract. I think he is a heart and soul guy. I think he's played such a big role in terms of he's good for fans. He's good for the team. He's a good PR. He's like the nicest guy. I think it's an overpay, but I'm not mad about it, if that makes sense. I mean, the cap's going to go up some more. Probably it's long. It's 3 years. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I didn't put it as an overpay myself, if only because his puck retrieval is so valuable. The energy and spirit that he brings to the team, so valuable. And I loved his opinion about the team. Like, we're still going for the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? And that's what you want. That's the fire. That's the belief in the team that you have. Even if the lineup looks different and maybe not as on paper strong, the spirit's there. That's one thing. He's another guy that never takes a shift off, which is why I don't mind paying him as much as he did. It was a little bit higher than I expected, but I didn't mind it so much.
Right. I'm happy for Emma too. His best friend Emma.
No question.
I would have hated to have been Emma's mom and had to explain Marty's not going to be back. Right.
Oh yeah.
That left us past tense with 6 players to talk about. Mm-hmm. Slavin, Chatfield, Roslovich, Carrier, Ghost Bear, and Walker. However, Ray, while we've been recording, the Canes have another signing. So this won't be breaking news by the time I actually can edit this and get it published. However, Josiah Slavin, little brother of Jacob Slavin, has just signed a 2-year, 2-way contract with the Hurricanes. Welcome to Chicago.
Wow. Look at that.
That's probably a fine idea.
we love Slavin, so you can never have enough Slavin. You know what I mean? Like that's really what this is, and good for
Yeah.
him. Good for him. It'd be nice to see. It'd be nice to see what he could do in the long run. I
Hmm.
mean, I'd say that's really interesting. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that. Love it. Breaking news during the recording.
I like it.
That's as good as it gets.
We should do this live sometime. That would be so much more impactful live.
Oh man, no kidding. Hey,
Speaking of Slavins, Jacob Slavin to nobody's surprise, I would hope.
yeah, yeah.
8-year deal, 51.69 million. Um, we talk too much about hometown discounts for players because look, the owners are billionaires with a B and the players are
Yeah,
millionaires with an M. And players might take, they might take a $500,000 or $1 million cut here and there. They're going to make it up in endorsement deals and other things, right?
yeah.
Jacob Slavin signing for less than 52 million
That seems
is
underpaid, isn't it?
is um it is an absolute steal in my mind. I mean, that's six and a
Yeah,
half million a year. And I can't believe he's not making $1 million more a year.
at least. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I thought he was at least going to be. I thought he was going to approach 8.
and
The value's there.
right. And as good as he is, and this is going to sound like a knock on these guys, and it's not meant to be. It's just trying to be honest. He has been playing with a Brent Burns who's clearly slowing down.
Hmm.
Right? They had him with TA, who's not good defensively.
No.
Like Slavin hasn't been paired with a top flight first pair guy. You could say Burns' first season, I would say was fair when Burns
Yes,
still had
yes.
his legs moving. So it hasn't been that long. But other than that, it's been some time. I mean, Slavin is a workhorse and one of the best defenders in the game, even with a partner who he's also having to help cover for. And for $6.5 million, unbelievable. That's absolutely cooking. Like I'm super happy
Yeah,
with that one.
yeah. Very, very glad. It seems like a haircut. It seems like a haircut for
Right.
what he's worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's a great signing. He's going to stay with the team from start to finish. That is a retired number to be sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see how that's
Like
not going to go up in the rafters.
that's no question. It's no question. So really glad to see him lined up. And you're right. It was not a surprise to anyone for sure.
Yeah, he's one of it's the Seth Jarvis. Like it's just not a surprise when that contract gets done. It's just a matter of figuring it out. A guy I am very surprised did not go to free agency and test the
Yeah.
waters was Jalen Chatfield. 3 years, $9 million. I cannot say enough good things about this kid. He's got wheels. He's got smarts. He's good positionally. He is tough when he needs to be, but he's not foolish about it. Love this kid in Chicago. Loved him on his rookie deal. Glad to see he's getting paid. I know
Brad.
Orlov, Chatfield may not be your number 2 pair, even though I think they were kind of the de facto number 2 pair for much of the end of last year.
Yeah.
But even as your third pair, if they're your third pair, is there a better third pair in the league? And if they're your second pair, how many second pairs are better in the league? Not many.
Yeah. Not many. Brad, you've seen me in person, so you know how big I am. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration or even in jest. I did a happy dance when I got the news that
I was so happy.
I was delighted. I was and really I expected him to sign for a little bit more.
Yeah, I did.
And
I thought he was going to get like 4x4 somewhere for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, 4x4 is where I was at too, and it didn't happen out that way. And I love it and very, very happy. Yeah, I did a happy dance. That was a really great signing.
Yeah, my retro 2-0 jersey is a Chatfield jersey, and I was like, man, I know. I always tell people don't buy jerseys of guys on the end of a contract, and I did, and I got lucky,
And it worked out. And it worked out. Good for you.
All right, let's do let's do these in order of I don't know, maybe easiest to hardest. Jack Roslovich, 1 year, 2.8 million. He's supposed to be a dynamic player. He has speed and skill. He should provide a boost to the forwards. He did well in the AHL, right, with Columbus and the Rangers. He had 8 points in 16 playoff appearances, I think, in New York. He's 6'2"-ish, 200 pounds. And
I'll say that the people that were cracking on going after him, all those people forget the 3 apples he had against us in the elimination game with the Rangers.
Oh, right. Or I think he was part of the Columbus game where Columbus came back and spanked us a couple. Was that last year, 2 years ago when they just beat the tar out of us? I think he was there. Yeah.
You know what? He's got talent, and he's sneaky, maybe under the radar, and doesn't get the amount of hype that Panarin or Kreider or anyone really on the Rangers squad. I love this pickup. I loved it.
Awesome. I
can't wait to see him.
I didn't feel like I knew enough to have a super strong opinion, although I had inklings of how I felt about him. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we want. Right?
It's a 1 year deal, right?
It's 1 year deal.
It's a flyer. We'll see how it works, but I like this. He's going to get a chance to show what he's all about, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, the Hurricanes are setting up so the next year, Orlov and Burns money comes off the books. Hopefully, you get Nikishin over from Russia, and they can. This is a retooling year. Next year might be as well, but they're setting themselves up next year that they could potentially have a big push, depending on how the money with Natchez and Jarvis shake out.
The future looks good.
Perhaps the most interesting contract is our next guy here with William Carrier. This guy's a Stanley Cup champion. He had 107 points in 413 games. It's a $2 million AAV, which is nothing. Like, you can bury that contract, you can trade it, you can waive him, you can put him in the A. The money is not an issue. But it's 6 years with a no movement clause for basically a third, fourth line, a bottom six guy. And I'm guessing they had to give him the term so that he would have some family stability, right? He probably, I don't know, but I'm guessing he probably has wife and kids of an age where he's like, hey, I want to go somewhere and stay for a while. I'll take super low money for term. And that's would make sense. But it's just a weird contract because you normally don't see those bottom guys getting that kind of money. Oh, sorry, excuse me, that kind of term. The money's right. The money's actually probably much lower than what he deserves. But 6 years is a weird contract. Everybody seems to be on the same kind of page about that now. But this is a guy who can come in and help. I mean,
Nate, you know what? I look at him as Nason's replacement.
And this guy hits too. Like, this guy is not afraid to be physical.
Oh, and I'm going to love that because I've watched the Hurricanes too many times turn away from hits that can accumulate. Like, the hits can accumulate over a game. You know what I mean? And where they just don't want to put the body on him. He's a guy that loves to hit. He loves to go to the front of the net, the dirty places. He is a Nason replacement who's also won a Stanley Cup. So he's got experience, and he was a solid part of a Vegas squad that did well. He did well. Yeah. So that's a great pickup. I was stunned at how long it was. It just seemed 6x2. It was like, huh?
Yeah, I was like, they signed Carrier. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He's a big dude, and he ends up. I think he's on the record at 6'2", 220. I'm like, oh, like size, good. Solid. We need size. We need guys that can hit people. And they're like $2 million. I'm like, $2 million bucks, great. Like, 1x2, 2x2, and they're like 6x2, and I was like, what?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Okay, hold on. Let's think this through because that is a crazy contract for a bot six guy. Two of the exiting guys were a pair. I'm going to pair these guys up, even though they may not play together.
And well, you should.
Ghost, Bear, and Walker. Ghost gets a 3-year, $9.6 million contract. He said in podcasts and things while he was in Detroit how he had wished he could have stayed in Carolina, but he had promised he'd test free agency. He loved it here. He loved playing for Rod. I want a guy who wants to be here rather than a Jake Gensel who doesn't, regardless of talent.
Good call.
Then you have Sean Walker coming over from the Avs, who signs a 5-year, $18 million contract. So great AAV for the Canes again.
Yeah.
Right? 29 points for Walker, I think, last year. 56, I think I said earlier, for Ghost Bear.
Yeah.
And Walker's like 6 feet, 200 pounds, but plays a little bigger than that.
He does.
And Ghost is that size, but he's not as big, right? He's like, I don't know, 170, 180 pounds. He's a smaller guy. If this is a pair, if you keep Chatfield and Orlov together because they play so well, if this is the other pair, you have a top pair and 2 second pairs.
Yeah.
You have replaced the points from Shea with Ghost Bear. Actually, you've replaced the points from Shea and Pesci with Ghost Bear, except for 4 points, right? Then you just added the points for Walker, right? So what did I say? That was 29 points. So when I see people going, hey, where a goal is coming from?
Yeah.
If you look on paper, the Hurricanes should score more goals than they scored last year, without Gensel, without Natchez, potentially, because somebody's going to come in for Natchez who's going to be of value. Knock on wood, it'd be somebody like Ehlers, who makes the most sense, I think, right now. I know he's like the hot.
Ehlers would be
he's the hot target, right? but he would fit. Like he would be the best available. So with these 2 guys being signed at reasonable term, with Orlov and Burns and like Roslovic and those contracts expiring next year, you have a team this year, I think, that can make the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
I know I've heard people like, oh, we're going to miss the playoffs. How are we going to score goals? It's not that bad. The Hurricanes, in my opinion, are easily a wild card team. You could still get first or second in the Metro. I mean, you could still be up there. You know what I mean? Like is New Jersey better than you on paper? Yes. But have they translated that to on the ice the last couple of years? No. Are the Rangers better than you? It's probably a toss-up. It's probably really close. I think New Jersey will win the Metro. I think the Canes and Rangers will vie for second and a wild card spot. Like the Caps aren't going to suddenly be great. Columbus isn't going to be great all of a sudden.
Well, the Caps improved themselves pretty well. I'll say that, but I see them probably. They're a playoff team, wild card. I could see, no question. For everyone, like to me, Ghost Bear. For all of those people that are freaking out that we're not going to re-sign TDA, they need to all remember how great Ghost Bear was 2 years ago in the playoffs, where he was a terrific power play quarterback and he was good defensively. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everyone wanted TDA because he could provide offense. Well, he's just Ghost Bear is just better in all of those categories. So if you loved TDA, go buy yourself a Ghost Bear jersey right now. He's the guy you can put your backing behind, because he's going to give us exactly and give you exactly what you need. If TDA was the type of player that you love, certain players speak to fans, right? And if he's one of them, get yourself a Ghost Bear jersey now.
If you like TA because of his play style, then Ghost Bear is an upgraded version of that.
No question.
I'm not saying it's he's twice as good or anything, but he's better. I mean,
he's notably better.
One of them fell off completely on the offensive side and is not good at defense, and one of them is put up 56 points and is still pretty decent at defense.
And then looking at his possible partner Walker, I loved him.
Yeah.
And man, is he
the Walker sign I thought was great.
Yeah, it was terrific. And there was no way he was going to get re-signed with the Avalanche, who don't even have a full lineup and only have enough cap space, $300,000 cap space.
That's your trading partner. If you're Eric Tulsky, that is what you dream about at night, is a team that has good players and no cap space.
Yep. That people are going to be feasting on the Avs. that's a really difficult situation that they find themselves in, to be sure.
Yeah.
I love this pairing. I don't know if that will actually be a pairing or if they're going to split things up, but it gives Rod the flexibility that I'm sure he enjoys, and they're solid. Like, this is a great D right now.
I think our D Corps is better this year than it was last year, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, well, and what a lot of that comes from Orlov having a full year in the system under his belt. Ghost Bear has experience in the system and thrived and did well.
Yep.
So there's not that turmoil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that was only enough with Ghost. Is it took Ghost a while to get warmed up here, right? It took Orlov. It just takes a while, but these guys now know. It
takes a while, but not as long. Ghost Bear caught on quicker than I think Orlov did.
True.
There's no question about that. Like, I just love it. Love it.
And Orlov was paired with TA and not Chatfield. As soon as they put him with Chatfield, he was markedly better almost right away.
The Boeing defensive pair, unbelievable. Like, that was just so bad. But it was Boeing terrible.
It was both of them. Like, they just didn't work well together. So and the fact that these guys are coming in now and not at the trade deadline has always been a Carolina mainstay, right? We want the guys in early. We work with them the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking at the teams in the East, Ray. Just give me a yes or no. Okay? Just yes or no.
You got it.
Is this team better than the Hurricanes? Okay. On paper. Columbus.
No.
New Jersey.
Yes.
New York Islanders.
No.
New York Rangers.
No.
Flyers.
No.
Penguins.
No.
Capitals.
No.
And remember, with the Capitals, just to say it out there, if their big man's not going,
oof, they got trouble.
They're dead, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's Ovechkin or bust for them. Sabres.
No.
Who just dropped one of their best goal scorers. I love Kevin Adams. I don't know that I would want Kevin Adams to be my GM. Detroit Red Wings.
No.
But Panthers.
Close. Wow. Yes.
Yeah. Canadians. We both know it's no.
Yeah. You expect me to answer that?
I mean, you can, if I wasn't expecting you to lie. If you tell the truth, no, they're not better. No. The Senators.
No.
Lightning.
Yeah.
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
The Leafs.
No.
So I think we both agree. They're basically in the East. There are 4 teams that are probably better than the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Now, the way it's split up between the Atlantic and the Metro depends on seeding.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think there are 4 or 5 teams that are better than the Hurricanes in the East, which means there is zero reason you shouldn't get a playoff spot.
100%.
And we both know you get to the playoffs and see what happens.
I'm loving the way this is shaking out. The world is, the sky is not falling. I think Eric Tulsky really so far has shown his mettle, has really done a great job in a difficult situation. Make no mistake, the end of this year, it was circled as going to be just a very tumultuous time. Mm-hmm. And there was going to be a lot of pain in losing certain players, right? Nason, Turbo gone, even a manufactured pain with Gensel, like it was just, and he came through really, really well. If you were going to give Eric a grade, what do you give Eric for what he did just with the free agent? I'm not talking drafts. He got a lot of help with that, but we're looking at.
I'd give Eric a B+, and the only reason it's not an A is and this may not be his fault, but I think you really wanted to have Natchez done by now so that you can finish up with Jack and Jarvis. Mm-hmm. But that, if the deal was really on the table until the last minute for that Columbus 4th, if that goes through, then Eric gets an A from me.
Yeah.
Computer and Coin, who's been on the program several times, had thrown it out there about the turnover and Don Waddell leaving. And there was a little concern in her post, and I had responded to her, but I wanted to say on the program too. She was kind of saying, "Oh, like Don left, now there's all this turmoil. Is there a connection?" And kind of what I said is not really, because, and if there is, it's in a good way. These contracts were coming due. We knew this was going to be a big turnover, right? Yeah. This is for the North Carolina folks. This is Carolina. This is Curry, Atlantic Beach, right? When there's a hurricane off the coast, right? There's a lot of churn, though. There's rip tides. There's a lot of dangers in the water. You don't want to swim through this one. Don Waddell leaving, I think, coincided with this because it's the right time to let the new guy make the decisions.
Yeah.
Right. If Don is the one who negotiates all these contracts and then he pieces out next year and is like, I'm gone. Well, now the new GM is now saddled with those decisions.
Yes.
So I think Don Waddell leaving was all planned. I think he and Tulsky and probably Tom Dundon and Darren York all looked at it, and Don's like, hey, I'm about done. It's time. They look at this and they go, hey, I should leave now. That leaves whoever you select, whether it's Eric or Darren or somebody else. You guys get to choose the direction of the franchise from this point, because this is a major turnover year. So if anything, I think Don leaving now was a benefit to the club, not in reaction to the state of the club, if that makes sense. So I know Computer and Coin had asked that question. Other newer fans may be thinking the same thing. I think Don left at the right time to put the club in the best position possible. So now you have Eric Tulsky and Darren York and Rod Brindamore and Tom and all those guys sitting around, and they're making a decision because those are the people who will be leading the club the next 5 or 10 years.
There is nothing that I could add to that take to make it better or more understandable. That was a chef's kiss description of the exact situation and why it made sense and why it happened. Again, Brad, how many times have I said it? That's why you're the brains of the operation. Just
I thought
beautiful.
I thought you were going to say TamperBay again, and I was going to laugh. Again.
No. Look, that was fantastic and a perfect explanation, and that's why it had to be done. I love it. Wrapped it up beautifully. Perfect.
Well, let's end there then, because this has been a long one.
It has been a long. Apologies.
Almost 2 hours. Yeah.
But there was a lot to
workout for this one.
Yeah.
If you're listening, or take an extra long car ride. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're headed out to the beach or something, right?
Perfect for that. 2 hours from Raleigh, 2 hour podcast. Boom.
Love it. Have a listen. Statler and Waldorf strike again. We could have kept going. Understand, this was because we hadn't had a chance to talk for a long time, but we absolutely covered it all. And there's more to come. Seeing where these signings go, what happens with Jarvis. There'll be lots to talk about in the future, but we brought you right up to date with our not professional opinions and takes, but valid. We love this team, but valid. Yeah, and they come from the heart and they're true. Like we didn't say anything that was untrue in here. You know what I mean? So I love where we're headed. It's going to be exciting to see what more comes. I'm really kind of waiting on the Jarvis situation and how they do it. Do they do a bridge or do they do a long term? I desperately want them to do long term, but Jarvis, to his credit and to his own personal decisions, I think he'll want to go bridge just because he can keep putting up those great numbers. And then when he comes out of that bridge deal, boom, super payday.
Yeah.
Super payday.
Yeah. I think we're planning on a couple of weeks. It's summertime. We don't record every week. We have a lot of things going on, right? Everybody does. But yeah, I think it's fair to say if something big breaks, if Seth signs, maybe we'll get together for a few minutes, or if something happens with the Natchez front, then
we might jump in with a special or whatever. Sure.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe we could try the live thing on Twitter or something. We could hop on and talk about it, and people could just hop on with us, and we could, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Brad, that means people could see my face. We don't
not on Twitter.
Scare people like that.
Nah,
maybe not on Twitter, but live. Yeah.
Or Facebook. We could tell you to turn your camera off.
I could turn my camera off. That'll be everyone's.
Or my Stormy mask.
That's awesome. Brad, this has been a great episode. We've covered
Always
it all,
a pleasure.
like I just said. And all the best for all of those Canes fans this summer. Hope you have a great one. Enjoy, be safe, have fun, and say it with me. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.